God spoke to me and saying, I saw the pain. I was not resting. I saw everything. I was there. And just be thankful and grateful for the 12 years that you have had him. And don't think about the time now that you don't have him, because he is here with me.
Today on First Person, a story of heartache and hope, of a senseless killing and a widow's faith that sustains her. I'm Wayne Shepherd, inviting you to listen to the first-hand account of one woman and her family whose lives were forever changed because of the ancient practice of a blood feud in Albania. You'll meet Elona Prroj today on First Person. This conversation and all previous interviews are archived on our website, firstpersoninterview.com. You can click on any one and listen at your convenience, firstpersoninterview.com. And to leave a comment, visit us at Facebook at facebook.com/firstpersoninterview. A friend of mine met Elona in Albania a couple of years ago and told me of her grief as her husband, Tani, a pastor, was murdered when one family took revenge on an innocent man for something for which he had nothing to do. As you listen today, Elona will tell us about blood feuds, which are still a part of life in northern Albania. Today, following her husband's death, Elona is raising their 2 children and is deeply involved in leading the church in the town where Tani was killed. Listen carefully as Elona tells her story with as few interruptions as possible. In an interview via Skype, I asked her how it was her husband became a follower of Christ in formerly atheistic Albania.
In 1991, Albania was opened. The communism system fell down. And we have been for about 50 years under the communism. And as you know, it has been the hardest communism in the world. So when Albania was opened, then many missionaries came to Albania. Most of them were from Sweden. My husband, Tani, was 17 years old at that time, and he was invited to go in the Bible school in Tirana, in the capital. And he was not a Christian when he was invited to go there. This was the way how the first missionaries wanted to plant the seed in Albania. He came to Tirana with the idea that he's going to pass 1 year of his life in the capital, and not because he was very much interested in the Bible school. So when he came to Tirana for about 3 months, he was not going to the Bible school, and he was almost in the point that they wanted to take him out from the school. But there was a big conference, and for the first time he gave his life to Jesus because he saw a miracle happening there. From that moment, 1991, he gave his life to Jesus, and he came back to his town in Shkodër. And Shkodër is the biggest town in the north of Albania. And when he came there with another student, they were on the fire of salvation and with the joy of salvation. And they started to preach the gospel in the streets to people, going to the hospital to pray for people. And very soon, we can say that for 50 years we have been in a deep hunger for God, and many people were receiving Jesus. And this is the way how the church was planted.
Elona goes on to explain her own story of coming to faith in Christ.
At that time, in 1991, 1992, I was a 12 years old girl, and I was living in the south of Albania, in Vlora. And my oldest sister, she was a student in Tirana, and she came in contact with the same people that Tani was in contact to, with these Swedish missionaries. And she was invited to go to the same Bible school, Word of Life Bible School. And she received Jesus there. And when she came back for the summer holidays, then she shared the gospel with us, and me and my other 2 sisters. And we all gave our life to Jesus.
As you can imagine, for a young person to turn their life over to Jesus in such a way was a radical move in a formerly communist country steeped in atheism. Elona explains how her husband's decision affected his family.
He shared the gospel with his family, and all of them are Christian now. But the wider family, that here in Albania we call that the tribe, that is the wider family, his uncles and other people, they were very rebellious against him and very they were ashamed why he has given his life to Jesus, because here in Albania, especially in the north, is a big difference between Catholics and evangelical Christians. We are more persecuted from Catholics than Muslims, because they feel like threatened, like we are converting people from the Catholic religion to be evangelical Christian. So for Tani and for his uncles was like he has betrayed their religion, he has betrayed the cross because he was not doing the cross, and he has gone there just betraying the whole tribe, and their expectation, the expectation of his uncles were that Tani was going to be one of their followers. They were people of guns, gangsters, and so they were hoping that while he's growing up, he's 17 years old now, he will just follow them and be a group of men together, strong men in the town. So one of their big declaration was that we are ashamed of you. You are not anymore our nephew because you left the guns and you took the Bible to be a priest.
So, two young believers take the brave step of submitting their lives to God and in the process alienate many in their family who believe that they have betrayed their deeply held traditions and beliefs. But how did Elona from the south of Albania connect with Tani, who was from Shkodër in the north?
I came to live in Shkodër from the south, is about 300 kilometers apart from each other, the towns. And, when I came up, I came to live with my sister and brother-in-law because they were pastoring the church at that moment. This is how I met Tani. So he was the closest friend of my brother-in-law, and we fell in love and we got married. And then after we got married, then Tani was anointed as the pastor of the church, of Word of Christ Church, and this was in 2001. And then we continued our life normally, serving God to Shkodër and serving the church there. And it was a normal life, and I loved that life. Even that the north of Albania is very different with the south, from the culture, the dialect, and everything else. I loved the place there because I felt that was the place where God has called us to serve Him and to serve the church there. So everything was going great. I have heard before about blood feud. I was really young when I got married with Tani. I was 18 years old, and when I went to my father to ask him and to tell him that I wanted to marry Tani, the first thing he said to me was, "What about blood feud?" And to me it was something ununderstandable. I didn't understand what was blood feud at that moment, because something that I wanted to say is that blood feud is only in the north of Albania. It doesn't exist in the south. So this is a kind of out of our mentality. Even in the south, we couldn't understand blood feud that was happening in the north. And Shkodra has been known as the capital of the blood feud. To me, it was, something like, Tani is a good man. What do I have to do with the blood feud? And he said to me, yes, he is a good man, but what about his uncles? And I didn't understand that at that time. And the thing was that we were having in the church women coming and asking for food. And as I told you, I was so young, and I was... to me, it was something that I didn't understand, how people can come in a place for the first time, and the first thing they do is asking for food, asking for money. It was ununderstandable for me. And I can share with you a case that it is in my memory, because there was a woman coming to the church, and she said to me that I'm in blood feud. My whole family is present in the house. We don't have food to eat. And I said to her, come in the church and we will pray God for you. This was my understanding. And then she didn't came anymore in the church because she came just for food, and after 3 months, I saw her all in black in the street, and I asked her what has happened. And she said to me that our enemies killed my husband in the middle of the house, going from the kitchen to the bedroom in the corridor of the house. They killed him. They just found him the easiest way and killed him. So this was the first time that I could understand the risk and how dangerous blood feud can be. But again, we were not involved in that.
Not involved yet, but that was about to change. In a few moments, we'll continue the story of a pastor killed because of an Albanian blood feud. Next time, the author of God's Forever Family, Larry Eskridge, will tell us the account of the Jesus People movement in America. Largely an untold story, this movement in the 1960s and 70s sparked a revival among youth that is still being felt today in many ways and in many places. Join us to learn more about God's Forever Family, the Jesus People movement in America, next week here on First Person. My guest today via Skype is Elona Prroj, a young widow whose husband was murdered in revenge for a murder committed by his uncle. Unimaginable to much of the world, this practice known as a blood feud is still a part of life for the people of northern Albania, where Elona still lives and ministers the gospel today. As we continue the story, I ask Elona to explain what a blood feud is.
500 years ago, when we were conquered by the Turkish Empire, when the Turkish Empire came to Albania, they forced all Albanian people to change their religion from Christian to Muslim. So in the north, there were a lot of Catholic people, and they were very strong in their religion, very fanatic, and they didn't want to change the religion to be Muslim people. So they went out of the towns and they ran in the mountains to that they were not be killed from Turkish people. So when they went in the mountains to be hidden there, they wanted to govern themselves. So they made a law that is called the Canon of Lek Dukajini. So Lek Dukajini is a man that he was a clever man, that he just prepared some laws how they would govern themselves, the Albanians, and they didn't want to obey the Turkish law. This is why they made their own law. One part of the canon is the law of the blood feud. It's 500 years old. And the reason why it's going on in the north of Albania is because the state and the government is very weak in the north. People in the north are very strong, very rebellious people, and the canon has more power than the legal law that the government has in Albania. People now, they are not respecting even the canon, because according to the canon, you cannot kill any girl. But last year we have had the girl, 17 years old, killed. In the canon, you are not allowed to touch any children, even that they are boys, until the moment that they are 18 years old. And last year we have had a 9-year-old boy killed because of the blood feud. But they are interpreting the law and they just want revenge, It is not anymore the canon of Lek Dukajini, but now is the law of blood feud. Just if you kill me, I want to take revenge. It doesn't matter how and when and where. I just want blood for blood, It is a kind of mentality for the North, is the force and the power of the opinion that if you will not take revenge, you are powerless, you are not a man. If you will forgive the blood of someone that has been killed of your tribe, forgiveness is a weakness, is not something strong.
Elona then goes on to explain how this centuries-old tradition of a blood feud came to be an issue in their lives.
I will tell you how it all started. It was 2005. Tani was pastoring the church that year. It was Thursday after the prayer meeting that we were coming home, and we heard shooting in our area where we were living. And after half an hour, people came to our house saying that don't go out because Tani's uncle has killed a man. So in the 24 first hours, it is crazy. The people of the other family can burn all your house with everything that is in it. They can kill children and babies. They can kill women. So in the first 24 hours, it is very dangerous. And people were coming to us and saying, just run away from this house, go somewhere and be hidden. After 3 hours, we then left Shkodra and we went in the south to be hidden with Tani's brother. And we stood there for 2 months.
When Tani took his family and fled, he grieved the loss of their ministry.
The first reaction toward this news, I can remember my husband laying in the bed and crying and saying, what is going to happen with the church now? And to me, I couldn't understand what has happened. Even at that moment, I didn't know how dangerous and how bad it was, because of coming of another mentality. And so I just said to him, we will be free and we will come back here and we will serve God to the church. So we will be here. And he just said to me, you don't understand what has happened. From that night, we went to the south. After 2 months, we were praying there and we were in contact with the church, and we saw that the church was, like a flock without a shepherd, and they were afraid, and they were thinking that we were not going to go back to the church and to the town. So we were praying to the Lord, and we felt so strong that we need to go back. Even staying in the house, we need to go back. And we went back 12 o'clock in the night that nobody will see us. And I was driving and entering the town. So at this time, Tani stood with Gabriel too. Gabriel is my son. At that time, he was 5 years old. And for 1 year, he stood with his father, present in the house, because we were afraid to send him in the kindergarten too. After 1 year, we sent elders. Elders, I can explain. Elders are some people with good reputation, that they are chosen from the communities of the mountains to represent their big tribes and villages. We send the elders for asking forgiveness for children. And, all the people that are present are only men in 7 generations. And so we sent elders to ask forgiveness for Gabriel, that he was 5, to send him in the kindergarten, and other kids in the tribe, but they didn't give forgiveness for children. And then we took the risk to send him in the kindergarten with other people from the church, that they will not recognize that he was our son. And Tani stood present in the house for 4 years. And with Tani, there were 24 other men in his family, in his wider family, that they have never come out of their house for 7 years because of the blood feud. So after Tani staying in the house for 4 years, he came to preach in the church maybe once in 6 months. And this was very rare. And if he would come in the middle of the night on Saturday. After 4 years that we were praying, and Tani got a strong word from the Lord. And it was like, I will protect you wherever you go, and I will bring you back here to fulfill the calling I have for you. It's Genesis 28:15. To us, this was like, okay, this is time to go, and we know that we will come back. In the end, we had a great peace in our heart, because we knew that this was what God wanted us to do, that we felt that God was taking us out from this place and bringing us back here.
Hiding in his own home, venturing out at night to dare to preach. But there came a day when God called Tani to leave the safety of his home and take up his ministry. Elona looks back on the decision to return to Shkodra in the first place.
When Tani was praying, he heard so strong from God that this is the time to go back. you have fulfilled the time to be out. Now this is the time to go back in Albania. And when he came to me saying that we need to prepare everything, we will go back, I was shocked. To me, it was like we have planned to be here for 2 years. Why do we have to go back? But you are in a position that you know that this is God's will, and you don't want to be a kind of hindrance of God's will in your family life. And so we came back thinking and hoping that maybe this is the time that God has called us to freedom, and maybe we will get freedom in Albania, and we will be there to serve God there. But when we came back, then we understood that the situation was more complicated than we left, and things were very difficult.
After boldly taking up his ministry once again, there came a day when their fears were realized.
I was not with Tani that day. It was Friday morning, and it was 5 days after the conference. I was in the house preparing the lunch. Tani was coming out from the church. It was 1:00 in the lunch time, and the children, they were in the street waiting for him. And then the brother of the first victim, the brother of the boy that Tani's uncle killed, he went, when he was coming out from the church, going to the car park, he went there close to the car and he asked Tani, "Are you Dritan Prroj?" is his name and surname. And he said, "Yes, what do you need?" And he just took out his gun and he shot him in his legs, in both legs. But he tried to run from that place, and he just ran after him and shooting in front of maybe 100 people that were in the street there. And he killed them just in front of the church. He killed Tani, and he wounded 2 other people that were just people that were walking in the street at that time.
So Pastor Tani was murdered on the street, an innocent man killed out of revenge, and Elona turned to God for comfort.
In the beginning, I couldn't see any glory in all this. I could see only pain, and I could hear the Lord speaking to my spirit and saying that I was there with him. You didn't need to be there with him. So because I was praying to the Lord, I was saying, this is my fault. I was not there. And God spoke to me and saying, I saw the pain. I was not asleep. I was not resting. I saw everything. I was there. You didn't need to be there. And just be thankful and grateful for the 12 years that you have had him in your life as a gift. And don't think about the time now that you don't have him, because he is here with me. So this brought this peace that Jesus said, that the peace that passes all understanding.
Elona Prroj, a remarkable woman of faith who has endured the senseless death of her husband. Today, Elona leads the church in Shkodër, Albania, carrying on Tani's ministry and raising 2 wonderful children. She is a living example to us of a bold and enduring faith in the face of hardship. I think of what Paul wrote in 2 Thessalonians 1, verses 4 and 5. We proudly tell God's other churches about your endurance and faithfulness and all the persecutions and hardships you are suffering. And God will use this persecution to show His justice and to make you worthy of His kingdom for which you are suffering. If you'd like to go back and listen again to Elona's story or pass it along to someone else, visit us online at firstpersoninterview.com. And then to leave a comment, visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/firstpersoninterview. Next week, our guest will be Larry Eskridge, the author of God's Forever Family, telling the story of the Jesus People movement in America. Now, with thanks to my friend and producer Joe Carlson, I'm Wayne Shepherd. Join us next time for First Person.